a really good point, Keith, and I'll tell you why. Although it's a different situation, my daughter had epilepsy from the age 2.5 to 9 years of age. She had up to 60 to 80 absent seizures daily.
Mm-hmm.
And when she went to CHOP Neurology, they did a wonderful job with her. And when she also had a tumor removed from her brain. But anyways, that was a whole separate issue. But when she was suffering from epilepsy, her neurologist said to me, because of these seizures, although they're not really a type of seizure that does a lot of damage, but because of the activity in her EEG, later on down the line, you were going to come across her having learning disabilities. So keep focused on that and look for the signs.
Good. Yeah.
He gave me a heads up when she was 2.5 years old. And we figured out she did have issues with dyslexia. She does have learning disabilities. And my daughter's sharp as a tack and very bright, which has nothing to do with her learning disabilities. She is a bright young lady, but she does have severe learning disabilities that are a product of her epilepsy. But because her father and I were keen on this at a young age, we were able to get her the education she needed before it reached that 5th grade age, where now it's snowballed into a complete disaster. And now she's trying to catch up.
Yeah, exactly.
So we knew when she was in 1st grade that she was having issues, and we got her the programs, we got her the help she needed because she was showing those signs. Because the neurologist told us this was a big probability, or actually a positive possibility. So we listened, and as parents, we did the due diligence for her.
Definitely good
to get that. Yes.
Now let's look at let's look at the flip side of that coin. Let's pretend you weren't good parents. Let's pretend that when they started learning disabilities, I got a freaking stupid kid. Maybe even slap the kid around a little bit. You yell at the kid. The kid got made fun at school because you're mixing up your letters and you can't read or write.
Absolutely.
So and now let's fast forward into that. She's a teenage, doing nothing but not only not being encouraged or loved as a child, but like the guy Yamasaki, I'm writing a book about. He had autism from a young age. He couldn't be around other people. People crowded me, would cry. He would tape off sections of the room. You couldn't go into sections of the living room. If you did or move something, you get a baseball bat and start destroying the house. His parents did not know what autism. They didn't care. His father was a schizophrenic inducive, and his mother, didn't care much either. But if someone had known he was an autistic child at a young age and raised him like you raised your daughter, with knowing what the signs were going to be, giving her the right, not just treatment, but the right tools to succeed and help train her. But if it was the opposite of that, who knows? She's probably not going to be the loving, beautiful girl that she is now. She would have had
a lot of emotional. Yeah.
She would have been a mess.
Right. She would have been a mess.
So
I don't know about a monster, but she would have been a mess.
How do you stop and prevent a serial killer from ever being a serial killer? Maybe that's a really simple question.
Yeah, but
there is no answer. But what Keith is saying is that a lot of these defects or abnormalities are already there from birth. So if they or the parents have this, knowledge, they may look at, giving their children, education or looking for signs or keeping them aware that this could be a possibility.
Yeah, I mean,
is that what you're getting at, Keith?
Well, it really comes down to treatment too. I mean, for the longest time, there were days, there's no treatment. Well, now there's baby steps towards treatment. There's baby steps towards, now we know punishment doesn't work, but reward does. So new studies are starting to come out where if in juvenile cases, I think 18 and 19-year-olds, I believe that they studied. I think they got a group of like 100 children, or children, violent offenders, but they were teenagers, late teens, in a junior facility, I believe they called it. Instead of punishment, when they did good, they let them play some video games at the prison. They let them watch a little more TV, gave them more freedom, let them go outside more when they did good things. Again, and they followed the recidivism rate. Once he's got all the ones that got more the reward based was a drastic 30% recidivism rate for them, and I think it was like an 80% recidivism rate for the who didn't get that type of treatment. So we know there's something to that. There's something with the more of a reward based and punishment based, and there's two other things. One, they followed one kid who had, again, the part of the focus in the front part of his brain where we can focus and have attention, it was weak. It wasn't working properly. So it failed out of school. So the only time I rushed I got when the cops were chasing me and I got arrested. So they did the test, hooked the brain up. I couldn't tell you exactly what the name, what part of the brain it was, but the part that concentrates on focus. So they did about 30 hours with him. I forgot, 8 sessions, 30 some hours. I forget how many it was. Well, the way they hooked up his brain, they hooked it up to Pac-Man, the video game. Pac-Man would only move when he activated that part of the brain that wasn't functioning as it should. So after 30 some hours of, 34 meetings, maybe hours of focusing on the only way you can move Pac-Man was getting that part of the brain to work. Well, after all those treatments, he went back, his life completely changed. He had focus, he had attention, and being, great member of society, never committed, as of today, no violent crimes or anything else, but specifically the treatment of activating the part that was not activated before, at least properly. New studies have been shown in violent offenders. They did what's called a double-blind test. I forget how many offenders it was, hundreds of them. I forget exactly how many, where omega-3, which is a fish, omega-3 supplement, they gave a couple grams in a little juice box. Well, some they gave, half they gave, no, this is triple. I think a third of the people that gave the omega-3, I think another third thought they were getting the omega-3 in a juice box, but they didn't get any. And others just getting the same treatment the facility was already given. The ones who gave them the omega-3, their violent crimes, the offensive in prison itself, dropped drastically compared to the others who can either stayed even or went a little higher than they were. So there is something to omega-3. The study that I'm also going to publish is the countries that eat more fish, like twice their body weight in fish a year, Japan and countries like this, they have the lowest violent crime rates in the world. Other countries, Bulgaria and other places that barely eat any fish at all, they have the highest violent crime rates. So there's something to omega-3. There's something to that, which are just baby steps on studying it. But these trials have been repeated. So we know there's something. So
this is like the new up and coming studies that are being
just
done.
Scratching the surface of it. Does that mean you're no longer going to be a serial killer? No, but there's something there that decreases the violent crime.
Wow.
So that's what we're kind of looking at now.
Wouldn't
So I'm
that be
publishing a few studies about that.
Right.
So,
and I know the spectrum for autism has grown. Because I know even 15 years ago, I don't even know if Asperger's is really called that anymore.
No, it's just autism spectrum disorder.
Started, correct. Mm-hmm. And it's really grown. And I think for a lot of people, some people you don't even realize that they are actually on the spectrum. Mm-hmm. But through testing and so forth, they found out they were.
Yeah.
And these are parents, these are, they have children, they have families, and they never knew. So, there's like, things, right.
How do we get that knowledge into their hands? Now, and we're also not always necessarily talking about middle class to higher class people. Okay, they might have a little more knowledge, research, but now we get to these inner cities, single mothers, drug addicts, so how do we get the information into their hands? So, the new book I'm working on is called The Story of You, Masaki, Y-U Masaki. But the gist of it, the final chapter is called The Story of You, Y-O-U. So the book's really about the story of us. It's kind of the way it's going to
Right.
be. But the final
And when
chapter,
are we looking at this? Well, don't talk about your final chapter.
oh no, not necessarily what's in it, but the gist of the point of writing the book is to
Oh,
tell
okay.
people this is the story of all of us, to where if we don't do something about it, nobody is. You know, to how we look at violent offenders, how we're going to get into information in these people's hands. Like, for example, that single mother who smokes 2 packs a day, drinks, or is on crack, you know, and has no vitamins in her body. How are we going to get information to somebody like that's hands? You know, so we have to look at it as far as, what do? Go to shelters? Do we volunteer to get information that way? When we donate food to the shelters and to food pantries?
These podcasts, Keith. Do more
Well, yeah,
podcasts. Get your story
exactly.
out there.
Podcast, social media. It's one thing tweeting, podcast to get the information out. It's great, but it's better if we know. How about the autistic kid in school? We all know somebody who's been bullied in school. Yeah. How about we start there? How about we stop bullying or do something about it? How about the kid who is the bully? Well, you know what? He needs just as much love as the kids that he's bullying. How about we adopt that family? You know, who knows what his parents are doing? He's probably lashing out because his parents never showed him love and kindness. So let's talk about, let's adopt somebody almost, you know, or the autistic kid in the neighborhood. You know,
so adoption, almost like taking ownership for your communities, like the way things used to be.
Look around your community, see who needs help. Oh, it's a single mother with an autistic child. All right, let's help her out. Let's bring some meals over to the house. Let's cook her dinner a couple of nights. Something to ease the burden, you know, or if they don't have the information of what a autistic, you know what, I think your kid might be autistic because X, Y, and Z. So there's always something we can do. As simple as a podcast or hands-on volunteering a couple hours on a Sunday in a local shelter, handing out information, handing out vitamins. Hey, here's some omega-3. Let's donate some omega-3 to the shelter.
Or here's a really cool study. Right. Yeah. And this is fantastic. Well, we're not going to keep up any more of your time because I know you have a hot date.
Okay.
Just kidding. Okay. But so your new book, when are we looking at this to launch?
Here's the first one. You can go there. You can get down on Amazon.
Love it.
Kindle, paperback, audio, however you want.
And we're gonna have the link to purchase your book in our description box.
Perfect. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me on. It was definitely a blessing to have you on.
Thank you for coming on.
Hey, wait.
And we're gonna have you back on for your second.
Sure, anytime.
Could I ask one question?
Sure.
And you're going to do our music podcast with us too, right?
Whatever you want.
You're going to shred that act.
Yeah. And to answer your question, I'm probably about 35,000 words into the new book. I like to be this is the first book's a little shorter. I like to be probably around 45 or 50. So by the end of the year.
Perfect.